Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
I am beat tired. Not because we had severe storms rolling through with tornado sirens going all over and straight line winds and hail and rain and flooding and you gotta know it's pretty alarming when I look at the radar and I'm looking, hey, Cory lives there. It's nothing but red. And that,
Then it became white.
Yeah. And then they talk about how their Doppler radars pick up rotation, which doesn't necessarily mean there's a tornado on the ground. It just means that there's something spinning up above. And I'm like, hey, it's spinning right above Chaska. And it all rumbled this way. The weird thing is where we lived, the tornado warnings went south of us by about 10 miles and went north of us by about 10 miles. Eventually, it just included us because when you have that much rain and hail, you cannot see the tornado on the ground, and spotters are pretty useless because it's dark by the time it hit where I live.
And I'd never heard this before. They said on the news that the tornadoes were rain wrapped.
I've heard of that. That is the most dangerous thing for storm chasers because it's like, okay, I know there's a tornado in there, but there's rain wrapped around it, and you cannot see it until it's on you. And a number of years ago, a couple storm chasers died because they got caught up with a rain-wrapped tornado. That's probably one of the most dangerous ones. The best confirmation of a tornado is still a trained spotter. And you could be a trained spotter. I mean, you take a class, they I think run you through the drills. Okay, is this a tornado? Is this not a tornado? Most police and troopers are trained spotters. But yeah, rain-wrapped tornadoes, very, very dangerous. You always hear, if you ever watch storm chasing like I've apt to do, you always talk about punching the core, which means getting out of the rain so you can maybe spot the tornado and at least alert, hey, it's on the ground, it's heading this way, and warn people ahead of you. As it was, there were tornadoes that dropped. They go out and they assess for damage afterwards. Generally, tornadoes leave a pretty unique spiral pattern of damage. Compound that is that we also had straight line winds where it's just 80 miles an hour wind, straight direction, bowing out from the storm, equally as deadly as any tornado. A couple of weird things were that because we had a late spring and leaves are just starting to
We had a
sprout.
spring?
Well, apparently it missed because we have summer now. But the trees haven't bloomed, so you're not getting the trees knocked over as much because the leaves catch the wind and just drag the tree over. Not to say that there wasn't, but like I said, when we found out, we've got a home security system. That sumbitch goes off when there's a tornado warning.
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that because the first time we've had it with a tornado warning, or at least we've been home, because Chris and I were standing next to it, fixing ourselves something to eat, and all of a sudden, beep, thousands of decibels. Not really, but you know what I'm talking about. And I'm like, well, designed to wake you up, and boy, it would.
Now, here at the Solitaire Rose compound, a few things. I was covering AEW wrestling, and all of a sudden, every device in my house started yelling at me. All three of the Alexas in unison.
Oh, really?
The tablet, the phone, and then on the TV, So this was something I could not miss. So it's in the middle of a match, so I just save and then send a message to Mike Johnson over at PW Insider. Hey, we've got a tornado watch not a warning, a watch. And the watch is the one where it's coming. So until that clears, I need to be nimble and ready to go. And this was one of those storms where you could watch it come in. So clearly defined front. And you could actually see, because I went out to look down the road, and as it came, you could see there's that line of rain just moving towards you. No rain in front of it, just rain and wind behind it.
You must have your fan going.
Yes, I kind of have to.
Yeah, I know. That's I was going to say, because every so often, as you're talking about rain and wind, I hear sound effects. I like that.
And then after it passed, right back to the coverage of wrestling.
Yeah.
It's like,
I actually
it's done.
said that on Mike's page. Is that, underneath all that red is Cory watching AEW for you. That's dedication.
And it was one of the few times I've watched local news, and it was funny because I watched Channel 11 because as a kid, the best coverage in Peoria for anything really was the NBC station. So up here, it's like, okay, I'll go to the NBC station because I don't watch local news, so I'm not married to any station. And about 5 minutes into it, they say, well, we're going back to regular programming. It's like, no, I'm not. Okay, who's still covering the storm? Channel 9 was covering the storm.
Yeah, Channel 9 or 29, Fox Plus, kept live coverage going.
Well, so did Channel 9. They had live coverage until it ended here.
But
because once it ended here, it's like, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, they pop back to Masked Singer every so often, and so yeah, I go to 29 until, because we have Dish, the storm is so bad we can't get a satellite signal. Then we flipped on. I tried to get it on my phone app, and then Chris fired up her laptop and we watched it live. And what I found out is that the live version is about 15 seconds behind, and the app is about 30 seconds behind. So basically, the bottom line is, if you know there's a tornado coming and you hear the sirens and everything you own goes off, you might have just seconds to live. It's gotten to the point where it's so bad that, and I think you might know this, when down in Tornado Alley, because we're on the northern edge of it, they don't call it a tornado warning anymore. Did you know what they call it?
I do not.
They call it a tornado emergency, which means you got one on top of you, and unless you want to die, seek cover. Because people are like, yeah, tornado warning, whatever. So, yeah, it was quite the night. That did not stop me from sleeping, though. What stopped me was, well, I did fall asleep, and then about 2 o'clock I woke up. Chris was snoring, and it's one of those things, you ever have that where you just wake up and you're like, I'm wide awake. I could start my day now. And I'm like, well, I can't start my day. It's 2 a.m. So I slept on the couch, and it was so warm. I don't think I fell asleep. Well, let's see. At 4 a.m., the birds start chirping. Fucking birds. I think at 5 o'clock I fell asleep. Because when Chris left to go to work, she's like, you were snoring really hard. And I still woke up at 9 o'clock. So, oh well. Isn't that what we've been starting our podcast on? It's just a Minnesotan thing. We talk about the weather.
Well, and it was kind of scary last night.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, when we got hit with the hail, it sounded like there was a machine gun shooting at the house. And, they were saying 80-mile-an-hour winds.
Mm-hmm.
80-mile-an-hour winds will destroy. The good thing is, by the time it got to Chaska, it was down to 40 or 50-mile-an-hour winds. Now, I am down in a valley, so a lot of that gets blocked as well. But, it got in the way of my covering wrestling last night. I was an hour behind. I couldn't even do the audio coverage because the person I do audio coverage with lives on the East Coast, and he likes to get to bed before midnight. Slacker. So I said, fine, go ahead, start without me. I'm not going to get caught up. So instead, we're going to have an extra long episode of this here podcast because it's previews week, ladies and gentlemen.
It is. Well, we got our box day. I got mine. We were talking last week.
You had a hefty weekend for comics because you had free comic book day on Saturday and box day on Sunday.
I did, and then another guy, it's out in Woodbury, they have like the Lions Club garage sale thing, and a guy advertised he had comics. And I went out, and I rifled through it. I mean, he had them priced really well. Again, I don't have my comics in any type of order, but I did pick up one. It was a Marvel Adventures, I think, that had Galactia in it. And then I picked up some graphic novels, including a couple of Steve Ditko books. So I imagine I'll be reading those and then putting them on the eBays. And then, of course, tomorrow, actually 2 days from now, but as we record this, it'll be in the past. There'll be MCBA Comic Spring Con, so I'll have a report from that. And I have original art coming not only from Gordon Purcell, but from Tom Nagin.
Ooh.
I imagine next week we'll probably drop, I don't know how many parts you're going to get out of our free comic book day gathering, because I'll be recovering from surgery. And if I recall the last one, sitting upright for any long time is not going to be very comfortable. I could be high as a kite, though. So that could be.
And if you are, I desperately think we need to record.
Oh, absolutely. So if it works, I'll let you know. If not, though, you still, Cory will make sure there's a podcast.
Oh yeah, I've got. Let's see, I have 2, 3. Yeah, I have 3 fill-ins, and then all the stuff from Free Comic Book Day, and we had a special guest.
Shooter. Yeah, it was very exciting.
New people are joining us on our geeking days.
I know, I love it. It's exciting, but we're going to keep it quiet until it happens.
So, on the cover of previews this month is,
and of course, got to remember to tell them, interactive episode, folks. Grab your previews, number 404 for May 22.
And these are for books coming out in July. On the cover is Animal Castle from Ablaze, as well as Prometheus 1313. On the spine is an image book, Starhenge. I wonder if when Spinal Tap does their sequel to their movie, they'll do Starhenge to go along with Stonehenge. Then on the back is a figure of Kato, who was played by Bruce Lee on the Green Hornet TV series. So that's what they're pushing this month. Those are the people who paid for the cover. Let's see, on the interior, you've also got the return to Mind Management from Dark Horse and a fold out for Vampirella Year One. Lots of money being dumped on previews by people who aren't Marvel and DC. Yep. They also had all the free comic book day comics listed, even though it's over now.
Yeah,
it's over now. So if we start now for new listeners, because we always want to, like Stan Lee taught us, every episode is somebody's first. When we go through previews, we don't list everything we buy. We list the new stuff, the trade paperbacks and hardcovers, and things we find interesting. Because we listed everything we buy, my end of it would be 35 hours.
That's all?
Yeah.
Slacker.
I know. And we start with Image.
Mainly because they're first.
Yes.
So, and we'll be hopping around. So we usually go to page 57. It's the first book. And again, these are things I haven't put together in my order yet, but these are things I'm definitely interested in and I may buy. This is The Hollows one-shot. Chris Ryall, Sam Keith. Sam Keith's what caught my attention. In this specially priced extra-length comic, artist Sam Keith and writer Chris Ryall transport you to a dystopian near-future Japan where spectral Once human husks prey on the unfortunates who couldn't find salvation in the skyscraper-like trees that now dominate the decimated landscape. Discredited scientist works furiously to find a cure till a one-eyed orphan girl and her pet, Erp, force him to rethink everything he knows. You had me at Sam Keith. Sorry, Chris, but, you know, and you got 2 covers to choose from. I'll probably stick with the Sam Keith cover.
If you go back to page 48, Sunburn, the original graphic novel by Andy Watson. I always like Andy Watson, but Andy is writing this. It's being drawn by Simon Gain. Rachel is a teenager, lives a gray suburban life in gray suburban England. It's a world of brown sauce, warm beer, and scrambled eggs every Tuesday. With her summer mapped out for her, a job working at the butcher and a caravan holiday in Clacton, it seems like this year will only bring more of the same. So when her family friends invite her to spend the summer with them in Greece, she jumps at the chance to escape her life and finally be treated like an adult. She'll soon learn that life on a small island where everybody knows each other's business is not all it's cracked up to be. Andy Watson has done stuff like the book tour, Carrie and the Knights of the Forest. I always like her writing. They've got 3 pages here, and they have a double-page spread of a city in Greece that's just beautiful. And if I was wavering at all on buying the book, looking at that double-page spread convinced me to pick it up. This is going to be fun.
On page 62, Prophet #1 Remastered Edition. I don't always buy these, but it is kind of fun because this is the remastered #1 where they take some of today's top comic book talents and basically recreate the issue. His first appearance was in 1992, Youngblood #2, in case you wondered why that suddenly went up in price. And of course, with the movie coming up, it's kind of a fun 30th anniversary commemorative issue, you know, with a star-studded roster of illustrators. So you can read and decide if it is. It's just the ones I've seen that have already come out look like they're fun. I think they did I don't remember. As we went through Free Comic Book Day, I could say, oh, look, there it is. So it's a fun little thing to pick up.
On the next page is Skybound X25, which is weird because the series did not go to 25 issues. But here you go. It's issue 25 because, Joe, do you remember when Image did the gimmicky thing of having all the books jump ahead to issue 25?
It rings a bell, but I don't recall it.
It was back in the 90s, after Image had been around for a while. The creators all switched books, which is why there was the one issue that Eric Larson had to redo of Savage Dragon because Jim Lee had drawn it, and he was like, "Nah, I want every issue to be done by me." But they jumped ahead a year, and that's what they're doing with Skybound. From the pages of Invincible comes Battle Beast, and there is other creations of Robert Kirkman because he's the guy behind Skybound. That's his studio. So he's doing the same thing. I'm picking it up for the Battle Beast story, and the other stories will be fun too because I like the Skybound miniseries. That was the one where we got Rick Grimes in space.
Not too far ahead on page 65. Bolero trade paperback. This collects Bolero 1 to 5. It's Christmas in snowy Los Angeles, and Devin Dagny is heartbroken. Her 12-year-old relationship with her ex, Natasha, has just come to a tragic end. She's an aimless college dropout, floundering in her jobs, and now her best friend is getting married to the wrong guy. But what if she could start over again? A mysterious stranger, something called an anti-door, and a mother key. Only 53 chances. So it's intriguing. I mean, there's been times where, how many times have you thought in your life, what if I could start over? You know, if I could keep the knowledge I had now? Well, let's just say we'd be saying, yeah, I'm thinking of selling off one of my 1,000 copies of She-Hulk 1. You laughed when I bought them all, didn't you? So that one looks good. I do like the I don't recall if I this caught my attention when it came out as issues, but here's my second chance to pick it up as a graphic novel.
If you haven't read it, it's new to you.
True.
On page 71, Image is highlighting the vacation reading, which are one and done trade paperbacks and comics. So
okay, yeah.
May be able to get you a deal on those.
I was going to say, I just kind of went through it for the heck of it. I marked down, like, I've got Starlight. I've never read it. Again, I got a lot of stuff in my collection. The Me You Love in the Dark, I tried issue 1. I obviously didn't buy it again. I do have all 3 issues of Mom. I read Pulp and reviewed it, loved it. Post Americana, read it, loved it. Let's see, near the bottom, I've got Bully Wars. I've got 3. I've got Ministry in Space. I've never read Ministry in Space. Or if I have, I totally blanked on it. And Plutonia, which these are all in the collection, ready to read. Cory, which one of these do you have or have you read?
I have read all the Ed Brubaker books, which is a lot of them on here.
Yeah.
Ministry of Space, which was Warren Ellis and Colleen Duran, I believe.
I'd have to look that up again.
I read The Me You Love in the Dark, which was okay. But yeah, most of these that I jumped on were the Ed Brubaker ones, which are almost half of these books, believe it or not. But yeah, a lot of good reading there. And your shop may be able to get you a deal on them. Who knows?
The only other Image book I got, I'll just point out because I've been reading it all along, there is a Hack/Deluxe Volume X hardcover, where there's 2 other hardcovers. And Hack and Slash, this actually collects a lot of the intercompany crossovers, including with Vampirella, Eva, and Chaos. So if you're trying to catch up, or you got the first 2 hardcovers, here's your next one in line. And that's it for me for Image.
Next up, oddly enough, is Boom.
Boom!
I
have nothing new from Boom. I will point you out to page 106, 107, because a couple cool things. The Something is Killing the Children bandana, which I think is kind of neat. If you need a short box to put your stuff in, I like these short boxes. I know Marvel DC have been doing them. Well, here's one for Something Killing the Children. If you know what the hell I'm talking about, page 107, there's your chance. You got 4 soft covers you can pick up, get caught up. I've read this in single issue format. I've switched over to the hardcover, of which there's only 1 volume so far. Come on, Boom. I got cash. So this is your chance to pick up. Other than that, everything else, Boom, I'm either picking up or just not something I'm picking up.
Dark Horse.
Dark Horse. All right. I did the last one. Cory, you go ahead and jump in. What's your first one on Dark Horse?
If you go to page 132, Grendel Omnibus Volume 2, this reprints the regular series Grendel stories, which are, let's see here, they are by Matt Wagner, the Pander Brothers, Tim Sale, Bernie Moreau, Rich Rankin. These are the first 20 or so issues of the Grendel series, which has the Christine Spar story, and then the 4 stories that move the Grendel story into the future. Grendel is so good, I have a tattoo of it. Recommend this, of course. And then, where do we go next?
Pop back 1 page to 131. This isn't something I'm going to pick up, but it's one of those things that I like to point out. So if you have friends that are He-Man and Master of the Universe collectors, you might want to pick this one up. It's an Art of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, where they take all that cool artwork that they've been doing on the newest incarnation of Master of the Universe, and they put it together in a very neat hardcover book. Also available under it, you got He-Man Master of the Universe hardcover mini comic collection, because if you recall back whenever the original ones come out, each one came with a mini comic with a unique story. And then, of course, across from it, toys of the He-Man Master of the Universe hardcover. These are the type of things when I had Hot Comics, I would sell quite a few of, because we had a lot of toys in that. So if you got a He-Man fan in your circle of friends that you are apt to buy them a $40 hardcover, There it is, all ready for you.
If you go to page 138 and 139, we've got a couple books by G. Willow Wilson, a writer I enjoy. First is Air, Volume 1, which reprints that series. And then the next page is the Invisible Kingdom Library Edition, which are Dark Horse's big hardcover books. Joe, you've seen the Neil Adams versions.
Oh, yeah.
They're beautifully printed. They're very deluxe books. Another series by G. Willow Wilson. It features volumes 1, 2, and 3, so it's got the entire story. And then they have some other books there that have been printed or reprinted through Berger Books, including Enigma, which was one of the first Vertigo books. And let's see, does Joe know who was going to be the first publisher of Enigma? It ended up being published at Vertigo, but who was going to publish it first?
I don't recall.
Hollywood Comics, a division of Disney.
Oh, wow.
Disney was going to have an adult comics line called Hollywood Comics, much like their Hollywood Films, which was kind of that, and Touchstone were where they made their stuff that wasn't for kids. But right before they were starting to put the books out, they canceled the line and canceled the Disney Comics line that they were publishing, throwing everybody out of work. But the editor on those books quickly got picked up by DC, and he brought all of the books with him.
Cancel. The original cancel culture. Cancel.
Yeah, stuff gets canceled all the time.
Oh, yeah. Back on page 134, if you have never, and I mean ever, picked up Powers from Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Avon Homing, here's your chance to start again with trade paperback number 1. In the world where superheroes soar through the sky, follow homicide detective Christian Walker and Dina Pilgrim on the dirty city streets below. Assigned to the Powers special cases, they will face the worst their city has to offer. This collects Powers 1 through 11. Complete Power comic strips from Comic Shop News, the Powers coloring activity book, and a lot of behind-the-scenes content. And I got it buried. I have my Powers collection behind me. I think when Epic was publishing it, or was it Icon?
Icon.
Yeah, which was their creator-owned Marvel thing. And definitely worth picking up if you've never read it.
On page 143, our EC reprint this month is a trade paperback, so it's only $20, and you can get it for less if you order online, pre-order, etc., etc. Shock Suspense Stories Volume 2. Shock Suspense Stories was kind of an EC sampler at the time. They would have a horror story, a science fiction story, a crime story, and then usually a morality type story. It was a good way for people to kind of get an idea of what the other EC books were, but a lot of it was that they wanted a book that would appeal to the readers of all of their stuff to, expand their sales. This is issues 7 through 12. So by this time they were firing on all cylinders. Your artists, Shock Suspense also had the most stable artists of the EC line. Jack Kamen, Jack Davis, Joe Orlando, Al Williamson, and Wally Wood. Wally Wood usually did the science fiction story. Kamen did the crime story. Davis did the horror story. And Orlando or Williamson would do what they called the preachy, which was very much a twist ending story that tried to teach a lesson. And if you're going to try EC, Shock Suspense Stories is the best way to do it, because it was kind of there, okay, if you like this, you'll like our other books. And that is all that I had through Dark Horse.
All right. I got a few more things I'm going to point out on page 135. A couple of trades, really cool. Virtually Yours is one I'm going to talk about. Shouldn't finding a life partner be more challenging than ordering a pizza? Welcome to Virtually Yours, a virtual dating app that provides all the proof of being in a relationship without actually being in one. With her career front in the front of her mind, Eva Estrella joins Virtually Yours after a nudge from her sister to alleviate some family pressure while she continues to look for a dream job in journalism. While Matt Kitteridge, a former child star in the middle of a divorce, takes a gig at Virtually Yours, servicing multiple clients as a fake boyfriend. As they navigate their current circumstances, both Eva and Max find that sometimes what you're looking for is right in front of you. And this and the one across from it, Love and War, it's all stuff from Comicology digital series, collected in print for the first time, which is something Dark Horse really likes to do. On page 140, point out that there's the Stranger Things summer special, which again, if you're got a friend who absolutely loves Stranger Things, you got this and all the other books listed. Across from it, here is your Orville Library Edition Volume 1 hardcover that has everything that's been published in an oversized hardcover with 6 missions not seen in episodes of the Seth MacFarlane beloved sci-fi TV show, which I guess is due for a return anytime now because people are getting all excited about it. I picked it up as a comic, but Last Flight Out trade paperback is on page 147. Excellent. With less than 24 hours before the last arc leaves the dying Earth, Dr. Ben Casewood's daughter Sarah's gone missing. Finally, this critically acclaimed series about a father and a daughter trying to reconcile at the end of the world is collected in a single unforgettable graphic novel. So pick that out. And the last thing I'll point out, again, if you're have a friend who loves Disney, loves Disneyana, or loves DuckTales, there you go, The Art of DuckTales, not only in a regular hardcover, but a limited edition hardcover, which has a slipcase, houses the gold gilded version of the book, an exclusive DuckTales guidebook that contains expanded interviews with the crew and cast, and then something that I'm real tempted to get just for this, a finely crafted replica of Scrooge's #1 dime. So again, some fun stuff. If you're really, really interested in it, let your comic shop know ahead of time so they can order this and try to get it in. I'm going to give a quick shout out to Tim over at Granite City because he tried to order some of these limited books for me because I just could not find anybody. And unfortunately, he didn't get them. But kudos for at least trying. And if you never know until you talk to your comic guy, let him know you want it.
Next is Dynamite.
Dynamite!
Sorry, nothing.
Not the Jimmy Walker?
No.
Not Good Times?
No.
All right.
You know, why isn't Dynamite doing an adaptation of Good Times, written by Jimmy J.J. Walker?
But let's send Al Payne a quick call because he's our buddy and he could tell us right away.
License to print money, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of which, first of all, do you have anything Dynamite?
Nope, nothing.
All right. So I'll just point out these are series that are starting that you should be aware of if you're a Vampirella fan. Vampirella Year 1, Christopher Priest, and a bunch of people. I'm not going to try to slaughter their name. Tons of original variant covers, including limited edition Virgin covers. A little bit farther down is something that caught my eye. Madball versus Garbage Pail Kids. Garbage Pail Kids, of course, was the infamous sticker card set where they would take, Cabbage Patch Kids?
Yeah, it was a parody of Cabbage Patch Kids, kind of, sort of, kind of.
And Madballs was a toy where they just balls that looked incredibly weird. The one I remember getting, I had the eyeball one just because it was really creepy. This is just something utterly fun and silly. And again, if you're interested, you got friends that are interested. I cannot tell if it might be just a one shot. There's a couple limited edition variants because usually it'll say if it's a series or not. Either way, it might be worth picking up as a one shot because I was looking through some books earlier, like I said, and some of the toy line comics are starting to get up in price. Things like Visionary, Crystar, because when they came out, nobody really cared. And now here we are 20 years later, people are starting to care. Let's see, page 171, Army of Darkness versus Reanimator. Again, 2 licensed properties. If you're into that, that's where you want to go. Let's see, I got page 179. There's the Boys Dear Becky hardcover. I read Dear Becky. Amazing. If you read The Boys and you haven't read Dear Becky, what's your major malfunction? Sorry, be kind. Also, you can get a signed Garth Ennis edition if you want. So a little bit more. I mean, the regular hardcover is 30 and the signed is 75, but it's only limited to 499 copies. Finally, page 180, 181. All the stuff I love, just like I was talking about back with Boom. Here's all the fun, cool stuff that when I had my comic shop, I would be all over. I mean, you have a number of original comics that were offered elsewhere, now offered to the direct market. There's a Pathfinder Glow in the Dark, Red Sonja Gem Mint Metal cover, Vampirella Ascending Evil, Amanda Connor special black and white cover edition. Offered to there's something down below, a Miss Fury Joy Division exclusive trading card pack. Miss Fury, of course, being part of the Project Superpowers line. And of course, this is art by Bill Tucci and Maria Lara Sanepo. Sorry, Laura. Call me. Tell me how I did that wrong. A couple of things offered again. Your Frank Cho Red Sonja coin, Vampirella Art Gem Stanley coin. There's a Reanimator Formula enamel pin, the Vampirella enamel pin. There's a Reanimator collector board game. I mean, these are the type of things I absolutely loved having at my shop, because after going to almost every shop in town, I can say nobody's ordering this stuff, and it's cool. So again, I did great business with this stuff, whether they do or not. Last thing, just again, another animated property. If you got fans of Elvira, fans of Vincent Price, there's your Elvira meets Vincent Price trade paperback. So again, some fun stuff coming up from Dynamite. And of course, oodles and oodles of variant covers. The ones I've actually enjoyed the best, obviously, other than the cosplay, are the Virgin art covers, because some of that art is just fantastic.
So I guess it's Marvel time.
Or DC.
Well, that's up to you.
Let's go with DC, because I've only got 2 things I'm buying from DC, so it'll go quick.
No, I have a few.
Okay, well, let me get mine out of the way, and then I sit back, because I like to sit back and listen, because every so often you'll mention something that I might have just glossed over. The first man is on page 28. Thank you, DC Connect, for labeling both pages. Again, this is issue number 24, May 2022, DC Connect. Deadman tells spooky tales. Ever have that feeling that you were being watched? Ever take a dark shortcut on the way home? Wondered what might be living under your bed? Well, Deadman knows. He's always known. And he's here to shed some light on those spine-tingly adventures. I've picked up a number of these $10 books. I didn't like them at first, but they are fun. And this one just looks like it'll be a blast. The other thing I have is a paperback back in the graphic novel, so I'll mention that when we get to it. But Cory, what do you have for comics from DC that? And again, this isn't things that I'm buying a lot of DC. This is the only one that caught my attention that I'm buying that I haven't bought before.
There is a huge change with Batman number 125. New creative team. Chip Zdarsky is taking over Batman. It will be drawn by Jorge Jimenez. That's on page 1. Bruce Wayne is at a turning point, haunted by dreams of a dark future, while Gotham City billionaires are being gruesomely murdered. With the discovery of an archenemy's involvement and a tragedy unfolding, the Dark Knight's nightmares are just beginning. Failsafe starts here. It's a 48-pager. There is a Catwoman backup. There are a whole bunch of variant covers, including a 1 in 500 variant cover by Jim Lee. Ooh. Which will probably go for hundreds and thousands and thousands.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes. And because I did not get mine yet, it's digital, so it takes a little longer to kind of scroll through.
That's weird, because I got both mine, so I was kind of surprised with that. It's really too bad you didn't know, because as we were touring, Comic College always has these available.
Yeah.
But who knew?
Page 18. I will buy this as a trade paperback, but I want to point it out for those of you who are buying comics as comics. Superman Space Age, #1, written by Mark Russell, who's becoming one of my favorite writers, drawn by Mike Allred, variant cover by Steve Rude. It's like they said, hey, Cory, we're going to make a Superman comic just for you. Meet Clark Kent, a young reporter who's just learned the world will soon come to an end. Crisis on Infinite Earths, and there's nothing he can do to save it. Sounds like a job for his alter ego, Superman. After years of standing idle, the young man from Krypton defies the wishes of his father to come out to the world as the first superhero of the space age. As each decade passes and each new danger emerges, he wonders if this is the one that will kill him and everyone he loves. Superman realizes that even good intentions are not without their backlash as the world around him transforms into a place determined to destroy himself as he is to save it. And we get a couple pages of Mike Allred's art, which is gloriously wonderful. Look at that on the second page. There's the Anti-Monitor. And who was the person whose power was that he showed up right before everybody died and cried? Pariah. What's his power? Well, he shows up before people die and then cries a lot. Well, what's the rest of his power? That's it. That's all he does.
Always me.
Everything's terrible and it's all my fault. He was emo before there was emo, ladies and gentlemen. The book-wise, I am interested in the Harley Quinn 30 Years of the Maid of Mischief, which is, I like these DC anniversary books, and even though most of them are for 75 and 80 years, well, Harley Quinn is one of their best sellers, so we better put out one of her. It does have the first comic appearance and then a number of others. It's 336 pages for $50. One of the things with DC that is really grinding my gears is the prices of their trade paperbacks. Marvel's too. They're just shooting up like you can't believe. And I'm not happy about it, kids, because their prices are going up, but my wages aren't.
Yeah. The one book I'm looking at, and I'm kind of torn between it. It's on page 46, Commandy by Jack Kirby, Volume 1. First question, Cory, is it the whole thing, or is there going to be a Volume 2?
There will be a Volume 2 because this is issues 1 through 20. Kirby did up through issue 40.
Second, is it any good?
Oh, yes.
Okay, because it's
so much fun.
$40. And I'm just like, that's a lot of money to drop on something. Because not everything, the new guys are fun to look at, but it's a crapshoot to try to read. But Commandy, I've heard a lot about. I've had various issues. I've never read them. I usually just I get them in collections and then they disappear. But I think I'm going to put this one on the buy list.
This is just pure action.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people who this is their favorite Kirby work at DC because it is. It's just fun. On that same page is House of Mystery, the Bronze Age Volume 3, which reprints House of Mystery 227 through 254. They've now gone past where they reprinted with the showcase books. And I like these DC horror anthologies. As a kid, I didn't much care for them first because I didn't like horror. I didn't like things that scared me. And then later, because it was DC. And the early issues suffer from having a lot of reprints of DC's 50s mystery, which are the lamest horror stories you've ever read in your life. They make Dell horror stories look like masterpieces. But by this point, Joe Orlando was editor. Joe Orlando, who used to work at EC, who was still working kind of with William Gaines. Someday I should tell that story of when William Gaines was almost kind of sort of put in charge of DC in a way. Bet you didn't know that happened, did you, Joe?
No.
But a lot of artists starting out, a lot of Filipino artists whose art was way too beautiful to be on crappy paper. So it's good to get these on nice paper. These are just fun reads. You're not going to read anything here that's going to blow your mind, but you're going to get some beautiful art, some decent stories by people breaking into the business or nearing the tail end of their career. Got to be honest. But For a horror anthology in the 70s, it's a pretty good one. I do also want to point out on the same page, Teen Titans Omnibus Volume 1, they are reprinting that. This is the Marv Wolfman, George Perez book. It reprints New Teen Titans 1 through 20, New Teen Titans Annual number 1. DC Comics presents 26, which was the first appearance. Best of DC 18, which had a Teen Titans story in it. And then Tales of the Teen Titans 1 through 4, which was a mini-series that highlighted the new characters they had created. Still $100, while the House of Mystery is $150.
150.
And that's it for me with DC.
All right, we'll set that aside now. Marvel. I gotta say too, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on Marvel because there wasn't that much. There are 2 comics and 2 graphic novels that I'm interested in getting. The first one, and again, if you look at my list, I buy a lot of Marvel. Matter of fact, I'm still, I don't know if it's because I started Marvel first or it's just I just dig their universe. But
and I think they cultivate their universe better than DC does at this point.
Well, they definitely have. The first thing I'm looking at is on page 23, Ms. Marvel and Wolverine number 1. When a mysterious threat lands in New York City, Ms. Marvel takes matters into her own embiggened hands. But with a Krakoan security tech compromise, you can bet Wolverine and the X-Men won't be far behind. The best there is at what he does teams up with one of Marvel Universe's most lauded heroes in an oversized action-packed adventure for the ages. It's the start of a saga. It'll follow through August, September as Moon Knight and Venom join the Kamala clan for the superhero spectacle of the summer. So I've got to decide, do I want to buy it as one-shots or wait for the inevitable trade?
Inevitable.
And of course, it's all tied in because there's a Ms. Marvel movie coming. So number of variant covers, of course. But this one caught my attention, and I definitely, like I said, I'm going to pick it up either as one-shots or as a graphic novel when it comes out. That's it. I'm sorry.
Just so you know, the word you just invented, inevitable, is now my favorite word in the whole universe.
Well, they're all worthwhile.
On page 12, we get a new Peach Momoko miniseries, Demon Wars: The Iron Samurai. Her first Demon Wars miniseries was a series of one-shots that were about the X-Men. It looks like now she's moving into the Marvel Universe proper. I will buy this as a trade, but still. Then on the next page, we get a new Shang-Chi series. That is Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings. I guess the sales on the first book, the first 12 issues, weren't all that great. And they want to tie it closer to the movie, so they have brought in the 10 Rings to the Marvel Universe. And for those of you who complain about that, this is a character that millions of people now know this character. Tens of people know the one from the 70s that was so tied.
You got 2 of them right here.
Yeah, that was tied in with Fu Manchu, which they don't have the rights to anymore. And that didn't sell every time they brought it back. So, hey, I liked the series. I do not judge it as a continuation of the one from the 70s any more than I judge the Wally West Flash as a continuation of the Flash from the 40s. Characters get reinvented because they need to be. They don't sell if they're not selling, you got to change them when you bring them back. There is also a number 1 issue here. What one was that I saw? Oh, Predator number 1 is finally coming out, Joe.
That's the other one for me.
They delayed it because there were some rights issues with Fox. Those have all been cleared up. So the Predator comic that they announced a little over a year ago is finally coming out.
And I have to decide, do I want the Finch cover, the Peach Momoko, Ron Lim, Scotty Young? These are serious choices to be made, folks. Because and of course, probably the regular one when we buy through Discount Comic Book Service will be the one that's heavily discounted. But some of these variant covers look pretty sweet.
And that's it for regular comics. There is an omnibus that they have on page. What page is that? Because there's no page number on the damn thing. So 53,
It's always on the
54,
left
55.
side.
56. No, it's not.
56.
Take a look.
Oh, is that the best Marvel stories?
Yes, Best Marvel
Yep,
Stories of
yep.
Stan Lee. This was actually solicited last month in the order form, but they're listing it here in the Marvel previews. I did order this, and it does list the books that are listed. One odd thing about it, they don't have a whole lot of his stuff from the 40s and 50s, which I completely understand. But let's face it, anybody who's going to buy this book is going to be somebody who's older. So why not have more of the old stuff? I do like that they have Silver Surfer, Our Love Story. They've got some Strange Tales. They've got a Thor story, Spider-Man, X-Men, you name it, they're in here. This is a big old monster of a book. And well worth it. Now, the rest of these omnibuses this month are either reprints or books I don't care about.
I'm looking maybe at the Secret Wars omnibus, only because I have the original one, and I've got to look at it to see did they add anything to it.
The only non-Secret Wars stories are the Thor tie-in, the She-Hulk tie-in, and the 2 What Ifs.
Yeah. So again, if those are included, I may sell my original and pick this up because I'm kind of silly that way.
They do have the War of Kings being reprinted, which is part of when they brought back the Guardians of the Galaxy as the Guardians of the Galaxy that we know, part of that whole thing. War of Kings was when they crossed over with the X-Men.
I've tried to read and the Inhumans, I think. I've tried to read this thing in paperback form, and in my brain, it's just a hot mess.
Yeah.
I cannot make heads or tails out of it. I don't know if an omnibus is going to help, considering I got two of the collections, and I still can't make heads or tails of it, which is weird because when we get into the what we read the last week, we get into freaking and geeking. I read something that doves off that pretty well.
They also have the Silver Surfer by Slott and All Red omnibus. If you don't have that, that's a must read. The 2 new omnibuses are Wolverine Omnibus Volume 3. By this point, I wasn't even reading the Wolverine stories anymore. It's mostly the Larry Hama stuff. If you like that, here it is for you. Then they have the Gwenpool Omnibus. And I've read Gwenpool on the Marvel Unlimited, and they're fun and they're cute, and they have the substance of cotton candy.
Sure.
They're fun, but it's not something that I'm going to pay $125 to have a big permanent volume on the shelf. It's just not that good, in my opinion only. The books that I am picking up, there's a new Reign of X, number 15. And then we get to the Epic collections. They also have some reprints of that. But they do have Fantastic Four Annihilus Revealed, which is volume 8, which is Fantastic Four 126 to 146, and Giant Size Superstars number 1. Second issue of that was Giant Size Fantastic Four number 1. And these are stories that I read in the Essential volume. It's when Roy Thomas kind of faded out and handed the book over to a 20-year-old Gary Conway. Gary Conway, at 20, writing Marvel's kind of flagship book. I can't even imagine something like that happening today. I can't imagine them handing Fantastic Four or Spider-Man or Thor or any of that to a 20-year-old. But back in the 70s, man, they did it. And I think, well, we also point out the Marvel Masterworks. So if you want those Marvel Masterworks, it is Incredible Hulk Volume 2, which has the Tales to Astonish stories in it.
The only other thing,
pretty weak month for Marvel, in my opinion.
Yeah. The only other thing I recommend on page 76 again, for your art fans who really love the Marvel Studios What If series, the art of the series. And again, if you got an artist friend or somebody who just really, and it was a fantastic series. Hopefully you watched it before you watch Doctor Strange. And it's an interesting book. I may pick up the She-Hulk by, how do you say it? Soul and Peludo.
Yeah.
The complete collection. I don't know if I have it. I have to just check to make sure I don't. But again, that, just one of those things. $35. And that's it for me for Marvel. Again, I buy a lot, Marvel, DC. Just, you didn't excite me with a lot of your offerings this month. New stuff, I should say. And now, as we like to call it, the rest of the story. And I gotta say, if the main publishers didn't impress me, I found oodles of fun stuff in the rest of the guys. So I will start off, because usually I have way more than Cory does.
Yes.
You mentioned Animal Castle in the beginning of the show. Those books are on page 214 and 215. The one I find interesting, other than the story itself, because I have the collected 1 to 5, I should say I collected issues number 1 to 5, is the signed limited edition for $250, because I love these things. So again, if you think your comic shop might have a shot at getting one, there's your chance to get it. $99. 99.
Joe, go to page 223.
223. 223. That's where I want to be.
It's a good thing that Marvel didn't have a bunch of omnibuses for me to buy this month. We have Pulp Power, the art of the Street and Smith universe. Pulp Power gives fans a rare glimpse into the pre-war pulp novels set in the decade of the 30s, a period of bold action and adventure storytelling. The Shadow, Doc Savage, comic legend Dan DiDio. He's a legend? Didn't know that. They do context for the cover illustrations alongside a narrative discussing the influence of Street and Smith superheroes with legendary creators such as Orson Welles, Truman Capote, Michael Chabon, George Lucas, Agnes Moorehead, James Patterson, Walter Mosley, Dwayne Johnson, Frank Miller, James Bama.
Dwayne The Rock?
Yeah.
Oh.
James Bama, Jim Steranko, Jim Lee, Gail Simone, and many more.
You name dropper.
It's an expensive book. I love Doc Savage. Love Doc Savage. Matter of fact, I'm going to spoil one of the things about Free Comic Book Day. When we went to Books Unlimited, they had the paperback of Doc Savage, His Apocalyptic Life, which was when Philip Jose Farmer said, I'm going to read every Doc Savage novel, then read them again, then read them the third time, and then write up the story of his life as if he were a real person and related to Tarzan and Sherlock Holmes and James Bond. And yeah. Next, because it's so close, Joe, go to page 226.
I've already been there. Wait.
Now, were you paying attention when Butch and I were digging through the back issues at, where was it? It was at Hot Comics.
Are you talking about the Fun and Games comics we kept running into?
Yes. This is a reprint of the book that came out back in the 70s. Marvel put out a couple of these, and they sold so well they put it out as a comic, which did not do so well because, quite frankly, kids didn't want to write in their comics. We'd been told.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting because I remember buying issue number 1 under the guise that I was going to hang on to it. I didn't. Because of that very reason, because people were going to buy them and write in them and have fun with them. And they're silly expensive right now. Again, nobody bought them.
And then right underneath.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic Four Full Circle Alex Ross Slipcase Edition. This is a novel written by Alex Ross. It is written and illustrated by Alex Ross. who revisits a classic Stan Lee Jack Kirby story from the 60s, introduces a storyline for a new generation of readers with bold, vivid colors, his trademark visual storytelling. Ross takes Marvel's first team of superheroes to places only he can illustrate. Welcome to the Negative Zone. And introducing Marvel Arts, an exciting new graphic novel collaboration between Marvel Comics and Abram Comic Arts. Now, if you don't want to pay $40 for the slipcase version, there will be a regular $24.99 version in next. It was in last month's previews, but the slipcase version, that's where it's at.
Oh, yeah. Be a slipcaser. Yeah, I got both those on my list as well. I will redirect you back to page 218 because I got a couple books to try to catch up before Cory disappears into the depths of previews. From Ablaze on page 218, Prometheus 1313 number 1. What if you knew the world was about to end? What would you be willing to do to save the people you love? Darla has been plagued with apocalyptic visions ever since she was abducted by a UFO as a child. Now she's ready to put it all behind her and move on with her life. But what if it's all true? A dangerous cult militia is prepping for the end of the world, and they see Darla as the key to their survival. Meanwhile, something alien is awakening on the dark side of the moon, and the crew of the space shuttle Atlantis have a rendezvous with destiny. A couple small pages of preview art, various variant covers. They also have the little box code thing, so you could.
Oh, the barcode.
Yeah, you can snap it in and preview it if you want.
Oh, you mean the Q code?
Yeah, Q code or whatever it is. Now, I'm also going to direct you to page 222. Okay, let's see, page 222. Voices of Water, hardcover. Let's see, it's Tiziano Schlavi, art by Werther Della Ria. It's a dramatic graphic novel full of black humor, spectacular and disturbing, written with visionary power, extraordinary narrative impetus by an absolute master of comics. It gives you a preview code. This tells me pretty much nothing. I mean, it's from the artist of the best-selling Something is Killing the Children. That's something. But they really don't tell me nothing. You know, if you're going to, don't expect me that I'm going to use the Q code just to go look at your book. You've got to sell me on it. And this one piqued my interest. I haven't decided if I'm going to buy it. But based on what you've got there, Blaze, it just doesn't cut it. You got to excite me. And again, I went back to what I just talked about when Prometheus 1313, got little tiny pieces of art there. Yeah, this is not how to sell me a comic book. Sorry, I'm verklempt. Cory, what's your next one?
Page 248.
248. Not Florida Man, the comic.
Yes, Florida Man, the comic by Mike Barron and Todd Mulrooney. I've read the novels. They're hilarious. This is Mike Barron at his Badger best. So let's see here. Eisner Award-winning writer Mike Barron brings us the tall tales of the most hilarious and notorious Florida native ever to be Google searched by more than Kim Kardashian, Florida Man. These are fun books. They're really fun novels, and if the comics are half as fun, they're going to be a blast. It says here that they're adaptations. I'm going to check with Mike, because if they're adaptations, I don't need to buy them because I've read the novels. But if you haven't read the novels, there's the comic.
You need to buy them. Let's see.
Joe.
You're ahead of me again. So I'm going to drive you back to page 229. This is up in the corner, the Freak graphic novel. And this rings a bell, so I don't think it's been offered again, but this is out of Action Lab Entertainment, The Danger Zone. Often referred to as the Freak. Most people thought of him as the world's ugliest man. He's hated on this, all based strictly on how repulsive he is. Whether they like it or not, his aura and appearance leaves people in a state of disgust. Not only is he hated, but he's pummeled in the streets and often. I don't know why it all sound pleasant, but it caught my attention. Then, of course, right down on the bottom, Ad House Books, Essential Item, which makes it sound like I think they might have offered this before. Talk dirty to me. Growing up, it felt like she was meant to be ashamed of her sexuality. Girls aren't supposed to want those things, right? With grand visions of sexual empowerment, Emma decides to try being an operator for a sex hotline. But there's a gaping wound behind those visions and reality. First of all, I probably will never, ever work as an operator for a sex hotline. But again.
And if you would, you wouldn't tell us.
Well, no, I would, because how else am I going to make some money? But it sounds intriguing, and really at this point of the game in this preview area, you gotta keep me intrigued. Do you want me to catch up to you, or should I let you spin ahead?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, page 232. There's something wrong with Patrick Todd. This is Aftershock Comics. 15-year-old Patrick Todd lives on the run, hiding out at seedy motels, living out of his backpack, and making sure that his mom, recently struck down by a mysterious illness of the mind, is well cared for. But doctors cost money, a lot of money. So Patrick turns to a life of crime. Using the telepathic abilities he's been hiding all his life, he forces the worst of the worst to rob banks, taking the money before making them turn themselves into police. However, someone has taken notice of Patrick's schemes. A reckoning is coming. Will the police find Patrick in time to save him, or will he become yet another victim of the killer called Zeus? This is a new series, sci-fi crime, by Ed Brisson and Gavin Gertie. Some small pictures of the art, but again, that description sold me. On page 141, Bylines in Blood, trade paperback. It's on sale in August, so don't look for July. Again, collect series 1 through 4. In the near future, politicians invent their own facts. Independent newspapers no longer exist. The very concept of truth has died. In this world, private detectives serve as Ronin, searching out the hard truths that people are desperate to keep hidden. The best of these size is Seta, a former journalist turned gumshoe who runs every lead to the ground, but she's just received her hardest case yet. Her former editor has been murdered. Someone wanted him silenced, and the trail points to the highest bastions of power. To find justice for her friend, she'll have to put everything and everyone she knows at risk. I don't recall if I don't think I bought this as a series, but this, again, here's your chance second time around, pick it up as a graphic novel. And now I'm up to Florida Man. Cory, what you got next?
Joe, go to page 326.
326? You're almost done.
No, I'm just pointing something out here.
All right.
You know how IDW moved into the everything else section a few months ago?
Yeah.
If you notice, most of their covers are coming soon.
Yep, soon.
We also know that IDW is in financial trouble because they're a publicly held company.
And they cannot hide it.
So, if there's something you want from IDW, you may as well order it pretty quick.
Because I recommend...
Because I don't know if these books are coming out or not.
And the one that caught my eye is Dark Spaces Wildfire. 6 weeks into the slow burn of historic Arrow Fire, a crew of women from an insane firefighting program are risking everything on the front lines when their newest recruit, a white-collar convict with deep network of shady dealers, discovers they're mere miles from her crooked former associate's mansion. When she proposes a plan to abandon their duties and hunt for riches under the cover of smoke and ash, the team must decide they're ready to jeopardize their one sure path back to normalcy for a shot at a score that would change their lives forever. But is it a flicker of fortune or a deadly trap? So, a bunch of different covers, none of them show, none of them final cover. If it comes out, that's one that kind of caught my attention there.
What's next, Joe?
All right, let's see. Look on my list here. Page 252. America's Really Got Heroes. Arg, really. It's a full-color one-shot. After a devastating alien attack wipes out the majority of Earth's heroes, it's up to a panel of 3 battle-hardened judges and your hosts, Skip Intro, to find the next generation of saviors via a souped-up reality game show. Who will prove they've got talent? Who will dance off with the stars? Who will be the weakest link? And who will get voted off? A host of comic artists and more bring forth their own challenges in dual competition between heroes and creators. Will your favorite win? So you've got that, and beneath it, you can get yourself your sketch comic in case you want somebody to do some sketching for you. Let's see, that's where we page 2. All right, jump to page 255. I like the Kevin Keller Celebration Omnibus. Not sure if it's worth $50, but it's got everything. This huge omnibus features over 700 pages, collecting not only the entire GLAAD award-winning Kevin Keller series, but every classic style Kevin story, plus bonuses, highlights, and other extras. So can't have new Archie. Maybe they'll utilize their old Archie.
And this was a Kickstarter. They did a Kickstarter for this originally.
Oh, I remember when they got yelled at. How dare you do a Kickstarter? Oh, nobody's yelling now.
Yeah, they were. Go to page 353.
353.
For the new Asterisk volume. This is volume number 8. If you're not picking up Asterisk, you should at least pick up the first volume. This is the most popular comic in the world. It sells millions of copies in Europe. It has been going on for ages. It is beautifully drawn, very funny. Here in the U.S., it hasn't really ever made an impact, but Paper Cuts has been reprinting it. I've actually chatted a bit with Jim Shalashrup, who's the editor, and he talks about how they work incredibly hard to try to bring the humor into the U.S. because there's a lot of wordplay that doesn't translate, so they have to kind of tweak it to find wordplay that works in English. But I'm really enjoying these books. They're beautifully done. Really cheap for what you get too, because if you order the paperback, you get two volumes in one, and over in Europe, one volume sells for about $20. These are what they call graphic comic albums, which when Marvel started the Marvel graphic novel line, they basically took the idea from the comic albums they had in Europe and brought it over here to the US. So that's a recommendation that I have for you that I'm spending money on. Joe?
Cool. Let's see. I'm just going to point out page 260, a bunch of $1 Aspen comics. So if you ever want to jump in, check out what they're all about. Here's your chance to do it without a lot of money out. Page 262, Sleeping While Standing graphic novel, a series of short autobiographical strips dropping in at important events throughout her life that shaped who she is today. Obviously, Soma, the creator of the graphic novel. Let's see, it's told in a compelling and humorous authorial voice. We are led by Kray through her early childhood in Japan, and this is what caught my attention, her early 1980s moving to Minnesota, separation of her parents, childhood trauma, teen angst, teen death, drugs, comics, health issues, love, fertility, pets, zombies. It's all here in this book. So that sounds kind of interesting, to me anyways. So, and I'll do one more. Let's see, back at going forward, as I'm trying desperately to catch up with Cory. Page 270, AWA Studios, Absolution #1. Peter Milligan, Mike Deodato. Dina Ryan was a hired killer who brought nothing but pain and suffering to the world. Now she has a month to prove she can change, a month to make up for her crimes, find absolution, or the bombs that have been planted in her head will explode, killing her instantly. As her journey of atonement is live streamed to a fickle public, Nina is about to discover the road to redemption might be spattered with blood. I swear sometimes when I read these things, I'm thinking that could be like a Netflix series.
And a lot of these are basically TV and movie pitches.
I don't know if you can hear up But the weather radio just went off. Tornado watch. So our severe storm watch has changed from severe storm watch to tornado watch. So we got that going for us.
See how I'm doing here.
Which is, oh my gosh. Okay. I'm just looking. It's almost like a repeat of yesterday. It's west of us is a line of storms rumbling towards us, and we've got 3 tornadoes embedded in them. So maybe we should keep on going and get this podcast done before this could be it. This could be the final podcast as Cory and I get blown to Oz. Because I don't know if Oz has decent interwebs or not.
I am near the end, so please go to page 387.
387.
And there is a book that I believe I gifted Joe a copy of. The American Comic Book Chronicles, the 90s.
Yes. Oh, I had so much fun with this book because not only reading it and what was going on, but I could compare it to what I was doing at the shop at the time. This, of course, covers. Well, why am I taking it over? Cory, you tell the people all about this book.
The 1990s was a decade when Marvel Comics sold 8.1 million copies of an issue of the X-Men, saw its Superstars creators form its own company, cloned Spider-Man, and then went bankrupt. The 90s was when Superman died, had his back broken. The runaway success of Neil Gaiman's Sandman led to DC Comics' Vertigo line of adult comic books. It's Alan Moore stuff.
Alan Moore.
It was
the
decade
author.
It was a decade of gimmicky covers, skimpy costumes, and mega crossovers. But most of all, the 1990s was the decade when companies like Image, Valiant, Malibu published million-selling comic books. This tells the story month by month of what happened in the comic industry during the 90s. I love these books. They are incredibly well researched. They go into detail. They show their research in the back. And it does read almost like a novel in that it talks about the comic industry. And, okay, here's what's going on over here. Oh, now, while that was going on, let's talk about what's over here. It goes month by month, year by year, with highlights of the big things that happened in the month, even if at the time it didn't feel like a big thing. If you're going to only read one series of books on the history of comics, the American Comic Book Chronicles is the one to get. And for me, comic-wise, that's it.
Not me, because I love independent comics. All right, let's keep cranking. Page 277, Behemoth Comics, Space Lady. Space Lady does her job exactly as the manual advises her. At least this is what her advisors think. She uses her incredible armor, technology, qualified immunity, and paycheck to get super, super high. She deals with crime in her sector, anything but, fairly, using any excuse to fight with someone or break something. But today, after a heavy night of drinking, Space Lady decides to sleep in and let her homemade AI police force handle crime. Just sounds silly and fun. Sticking with Behemoth on page 282, as I flip forward. Actually, it's a comic book called Behemoth from Black Caravan. Behemoth number 1. Teresa is horrified to wake up and find she's turning into a monster. She learns she's not the only one when the government throws her into a detention camp with others going through the same transformation. Surrounded by beasts, Teresa tries to hold on to her humanity by training to become a government weapon as part of Project Behemoth. Page 285. Sulfur Wells. Now, a lot of the stuff that comes out of Blood Moon sounds interesting, but this one looked interesting and the cover caught my eye. Sulfur Wells, around the rim of a large man-made lake resides a rural community. The lake has provided the community with commerce and recreation, but has also taken. While 2 young friends navigate the waterways and the complications of southern poverty, they must also remain vigilant. They also must remain vigilant of an elusive local cryptid species. Page 290. As you can tell, I'm flipping forward. Turn your fandom into cash, a geeky guide to your passion into a business, or at least a side hustle. You can buy this book or give me a call or go listen to my eBay stuff, because I went through a whole thing on how to do on eBay. And I'm more than willing to anybody listening to this here podcast talk how I was able to get a comic shop up and going, how I was able to get out of it without going into bankruptcy, and how I continue to do eBay things. So buy the book or talk to me, whatever you want to do. I'm a friendly guy. 292. Sunlight at the bottom of a chasm. No one can hear you scream. 3 young friends take a dizzying fall through a poorly sealed well, now trapped at the bottom of the abyss, where not a ray of light reaches. They have only one thing to do: wait for help and survive. This is under the Clover Press. Page 303. As I flip forward without getting myself a paper cut. In Fantagraphics, point out the complete 8-ball, 1 through 18. I have them as a comic series from 1989 to 91. Dan Close produced 18 issues of what is still widely considered one of the greatest and most influential comic book titles of all time. Here, Fantagraphics is collecting every single page of these long out of print issues as a paperback edition. So here's your chance to pick it up. I sold lots of these when I had my comic shops, and here's your chance to get in on the fun. Page 316. Entropy number 1 from Heavy Metal Magazine. It's a heavy metal events series. Let's see, Christopher Priest writes it. Rising artist Montos, with covers by Bjorn Berendis, who did King Spawn. Let's see, they call it Breaking Bad meets a Green Lantern. This is the origin story of heavy metal's ultimate supervillain, Henry Hanks. He had a good life until he betrayed Keiko, the living embodiment of chaos and misery. With his whole world destroyed, Henry is killed and reborn as newly herald of Keiko, with the power to destroy entire worlds in his master's name. Apparently, all the issues of Entropy will have a special Breaking Bad homage incentive cover, so you can try to pick that up. But here's your chance to jump in. On page 325, I have it's one of those books that I was kind of like, I might want to buy this, and if it's a slow month and it looks like it. Up on the top, Alice on the Run. This is Humanoid Press. It's one child's journey through the Rwandan Civil War. Let's see, this is Giramara, Southern Province of Rwanda, 1994. 5-year-old Alice enjoys a peaceful childhood with her parents and little sisters, but life as she knows is about to change forever as the genocide of the Tutsis erupts, forcing her to flee her village with her family. It's a singular testimony capturing with painful emotion a relentless world is seen through the eyes of an innocent child. Basically, a biography of a woman as told from her childhood perspective, a seldom shared perspective of the Rwandan Civil War. You know, based on a true story, so I'm definitely checking that out. Page 326. Oh, I already talked about that. That's IDW, the Dark Spaces Wildfire. Will it come? Will it not? You be the judge. Page 331. A Girl and Her Dog from It's Alive. Writer John Holland, along with artist Hernan Gonzalez, delivers a moving love letter to dogs in A Girl and Her Dog. Evie is the girl, Max is the dog. In a time-tossed bits and pieces, we see her life from age 1584. Max is there for the most important moments of her life, even after his life is ended. Don't miss this life-affirming tale, which speaks to the power of love, even in the face of death. This is one of those, again, you got a friend with a dog, it's $5.99, pick it up. They might enjoy it. We're almost there, coming to the end. I'll be caught up. Page 360. Excuse me while I slide forward here. And again, we're skipping tons of stuff, but if you see something you like, I'll tell you what, when we get to freaking geeking, I'll tell you what you can do here. Page 360, She Bites. Not big on vampire stories. This one caught my attention. Elsie Baker is a 130 4-year-old vampire stuck in the body of a 9-year-old girl. Sick and tired of stupid adults treating her like a lost little girl and not letting her buy cigarettes, Elsie decides to hire a babysitter to be her chaperone. Enter Brenda Zielinski, a suicidal teenager in search of some quick cash so she can buy a one-way ticket to Scotland to jump off a cliff. Despite the generous payday, it turns out that babysitting a vampire might be more trouble than it's worth. Page 398. We're in the Vault Comics. Heart. It's Heart Eyes, number 1. Meet the love of your life. Death. Sanity-eating monsters ended humanity. The unlucky few who survived now hide in the cracks of a broken world. And yet somehow beneath the graveyard that used to be San Antonio, Rico met Lupe, the girl of his dreams. But how did she get here, and why is she smiling? No one survives out there in the street. No one smiles where monsters lurk. A couple different covers to choose from. Page 404. 404. Comic book lessons. You want to do a comic book? Well, Watson Guspill has the comic book lesson by Mark Kray. On her quest to turn her story into a comic book, Emily visits her local comic shop, local comic conventions, where she meets 3 mentors. Trudy, a high school student working on comics of her own, teaches Emily how to create the expressive characters, how art can convey action and suspense. Madeline, a self-published manga artist, teaches Emily how to use panel composition and layouts, tell a story visually, and how to develop a comic form from scratch to sketch to finished pages. Sophia, professional graphic novelist, guides Emily through fine-tuning the details of dialogue, sequence, and pacing to lead readers through the story. So if you are serious about trying to get yourself a comic book, this might be a good way to do it. You could also give Cory or I a call, because we definitely have opinions on it. And last but not least,
I have opinions on everything.
You do. How about Grimm Fairy Tales adult coloring books? Page 410 under Xenoscope. Yay? Nay?
Nah.
Okay.
Well, see, I don't like those. And the reason is, when I do my coloring, I do adult coloring, and you can make fun of me all you want. I don't care. I want abstract designs because I want to play with the colors. It's the same reason why some artists don't do still lifes, they do abstracts. Mm-hmm. I want to more play with the colors and not try to recreate reality. But if you are somebody who, especially if you want to learn how to color comics, these are good, especially I would say the Zenoscope stuff, because their stuff is really, when I look at the coloring on it, it's never all that good because it's all dark, all dark, all dark, all dark. And a lot of the artists draw in, I feel, a 2-dimensional style, hoping that the coloring will make it seem less stiff, which is one of the reasons why I never got into Zenoscope. All their art looks really stiff and posed, and it's a company thing. But with the art is drawn for the colors to kind of create that roundness to it. So while I'm not a big fan of these superhero comic book based coloring books, this might be a good one if you want to learn comic book coloring.
So again, I have yet to delve into adult coloring. Why? Because I play on eBay all day long, but I've seen what Cory does and it looks fun. It looks relaxing. All right, Cory, you ready to flip the book over?
Yes.
This is our section for Brian. Brian, of course, tasked us. Says, you never look at any of the toys. I like my toys. Why don't you look at toys? Fine, Brian. I got 3 things this month. How many things did you find, Cory?
I have one page that has 3 things on it.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I've been talking a lot. Why don't you bang out your 3? And
go
remember,
to page 73.
This is all for Brian.
Page 73, we got Judge Dredd figures.
Bingo.
That are only $20 each.
Yep.
And the thing is, they're 1/18th scale. Beautiful sculpts on these things. They look better than the Marvel Legend stuff, which goes for what? How much are those? Those are $20 to $25 figures,
30.
Right?
Yeah.
By the way, Joe, did you know that the Marvel Legends line is 20 years old?
Wow.
Don't that make you feel old? Oh, one other thing I learned about the Marvel Legends line. Why do they have the Build-A-Figure?
To make people buy them all.
Right. When they did the first batch, the people who worked on it went into the Toys R Us in Times Square, back when there was a Toys R Us, and they had an entire wall of Toad figures because nobody wanted the Toad.
Nope.
So they tried to figure out what they could do to make sure that all the figures sold. And one of the things was they had designed these figures that were too big for the packaging. So they said, well, why don't we do these Build-A-Figures? But these are the Judge Dredd figures. We got Judge Fire, Judge Dredd, Judge Giant, and Judge Mortis. These are 3 of the judges of the apocalypse who are in the very famous story drawn by Brian Boland about the universe with Judge Death, where living is a crime and they have killed all the criminals, and now they're coming to Judge Dredd's Earth, which gives you that beautiful picture that I've seen on T-shirts for 40 years. Gaze into the eyes of death. Gaze into the fist of dread, with Dead punching Judge Death and right through his helmet. But these are just beautiful figures. If I was a figure collector, I would be on these like Oprah on a canned ham.
Yum.
What are yours, Joe?
Well, I want you to keep your finger on page 73 while you go back to page 34. I got to tell you, Kray, I am so glad I didn't get into the reaction figures. They are so cool. Classic, smaller figures, though, from like the age when you and I were buying figures, the little 3-inch figures. This month they got Peanuts, Toxic Avenger, Garbage Pail Kids. But what caught my eye is across from it in the Ultimates, Animaniacs. Not just the Animaniacs, but the Pinky and the Brain. Unfortunately, they're $55 a pop, but they look incredible. They come with detachable changing heads. So between the Judge Dredd figures and Animaniacs, we're going up. So now flip yourself back where you should have your finger on page 72. What are you doing, Cory? I think we all need to buy a 2001 Space Odyssey HAL 9000 prop from Metacom Toys. This is a replica of the heuristically programmed algorithmic computer aboard the spaceship Discovery, not the Star Trek Discovery, from Stanley Kubrick's 2001 Space Odyssey. It stands over 13 inches tall, does require 4 AA batteries. Can you imagine how freaked out your friends and girlfriends will be when they come in and see HAL on? And Cory, would you like to know how much you can get this for? Because it gives you the rare PI, which means this is so tremendously expensive.
And that's why I'm looking it up.
Well, I have it all ready to go. And I looked on Discount Comic Book Exclusives page. Actually, it took me a while to find. I think I'm under Toys and Models. But fortunately, because it starts with a number right on top. Are you ready, Cory?
Sure.
$1,687.50.
And it needs batteries.
And that is through Discount Comic Book Service. Your mileage may vary. There you go, Brian. That's all for you, baby.
By the way, Joe, why was it called HAL?
I thought I just said that.
No, you gave what HAL stands for.
Yeah.
Why was it called HAL?
I don't know, because the astronauts didn't want to call it a heuristically programmed algorithm computer.
It's one letter backward from IBM.
If you shove a B in between, it's IBM. No one can.
For that much money, and with computers and AI, it should be alive. It should be, it should be like your Alexa or your Google whatever or all of them. You should be able to have conversations with it. And it should be able to control things.
I would like it
because
at least.
I could get an Amazon Dot for $30 that does more than this $1,000 Hal. It's not right. It's just not right. You know what is right?
No, but you're going to tell us.
Protecting yourself on the internet with our sponsor, NordVPN. Our newest sponsor is NordVPN. Let's be honest, if you're out on the internet, you need a VPN to protect you. There's all sorts of things going on the internet where people can track you. You could accidentally download a keylogger, all sorts of things. NordVPN gives the best security possible. It has a password manager which generates complex passwords, syncs across all your devices, stores your notes and credit card information. It also gives you 10 gigabytes of private cloud storage, secure files. It backs up your data automatically. But the main thing it gives you is peace of mind. It gives you peace of mind when you're out on the internet, when you're streaming, when you're playing games, when you're listening to podcasts like this one. It gives you safety anywhere at any time. It protects your online activity. You get full access to all content. And if you use the link go.nordvpn.net sh3ku, it'll take you to where you can get a great deal for a 1-month plan, a 2-year plan, a 1-year plan. They are our newest sponsor. We're happy to have them. And if you would like to sponsor something here at any of the podcasts on the Solitaire Rose Network, you can. Just email me, solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks. All these podcasts I do. The Solitaire Rose Radio Network is currently on a pause, basically because COVID-19 has made it so that I have to work a lot of extra hours at both jobs. But you can still go and listen to my other podcasts. Now, you're probably listening to Crazy Comics and Stories, which is the main podcast. But on this same feed, KRAYZCOMIX, is Solitaire Rose Radio, the solo radio podcast that I do. I've done interviews, I've done short stories, I've done all sorts of things, and you can get to it right here on this same feed. I also do a podcast called Novelcast, where I take the novels I've written and turn them into free audiobooks. That's over at novels.solitairerose.com. Dangerous Dan Moore and I, and of course Wolfie B. Bad, give you bad advice over at badadvice.solitairerose.com. You send in your questions, and we give you the aforementioned bad advice. And then myself and Adam Vermillion from For the Love of Comics do the Fantastic Forecast at fantasticforecast.solitairerose.com, where we go through the issues of the Fantastic Four, 4 issues at a time, to give the plot and commentary on each issue. That's not all. Yes, I'm crazy. I still, over at pwinsiderelite.com, every week on Wednesday, do a recap of the latest episode of AEW Dynamite. I write up what happened, and then myself and Anthony Pyrus will do an audio. Now, you can only listen to the audio, if you remember, at pwinsiderelite.com, and if you're a wrestling fan, you should be, where we then break down the episode, talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, give it a grade, and let you know if you should have watched that episode. Those are the other podcasts here at the Solitaire Rose Radio Network. Thanks. And then when you're done with all that, I suppose you could go to Joe's eBay page.
You could, because not only am I slowly rolling through things that I have bought, because you remember I did all that spending when I was delivering flyers for the MCBF show and then Free Comic Book Day. And I mean, I bought a ton of stuff. As I read it and give it the thumbs up, thumbs down, I put it on the eBays. And I've got a lot of stuff up there. I mean, I had a small run of I Hate Fairyland. I found a copy of Amazing World DC Comics while we were out geeking about. Number 10, it's got a cool photo cover dealing with DC production office. Found a run, some more, of the IDW G.I. Joe Real American Hero comics, which is really interesting because they're going for silly money. It's like nobody was buying these things or nobody was paying attention. And all of a sudden, oh my God, Larry Hama's writing these. Some of the stuff I've talked about in the past, some of it we haven't. But it's all up there. What's is interesting is that I'm cutting a lot of deals. Not only are people contacting me, going, hey, would you take this? And 9 out of 10 times I will, especially if it's something I've been sitting around. And even if you're shy and you don't want to run the risk of being humiliated by me when you say, would you take $20? And I say, no, damn it, I'll take $10 and not a penny more. I can understand that's intense. You can just watch it, because a lot of times what I do is I go through and I dangle a carrot in front of the watch guys. Oh, $13.75, you're watching it? Maybe I'll drop it to $10.99 just for you. So again, we've had a long episode. I'm not going to talk about all this stuff. A lot of stuff's going up. A lot of stuff is selling. I'm repricing stuff. I'm just having fun. Again, remember what I said last week? If you're not interested, you just want to do like one of our listeners did and just want to swap some comics. I got tons of comics. I would love to just swap like 5 comics. Just it shouldn't even be collectible comics. Because he sent me that. I buried it. It's everything I got in my collection. Oh, there it is. Codename Ninja, that has that comic that Cory wrote and was never published from Soul Sun. So I thought that was kind of cool. Maybe I'll have Cory autograph it for me. Yeah, try to get him to autograph something. But you know where all the fun.
I'm not coming out of my house again until Black Friday.
Well, I'd say that because even as we speak, there is a very impressive line of storms heading towards us. So 1, 2, 3 tornadoes, 4 tornadoes embedded in it. So let's get this here podcast going and we'll kind of tie everything down. No idea if it's going to hit the cities, but I'm sorry. KRAYZ, come get some.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show. No, not where I sell all my omnibuses for more coloring books. I wonder if they have coloring book omnibuses.
Who knows?
No, it's Freaking a Geeky Joe. What are you freaking on?
I should be freaking out about my upcoming surgery, but I'm not. So, but I'm going to mention it there. So, I don't know. Let's see. When does this podcast drop? It drops
next
after I've
Wednesday.
Done it. Oh, so I'll be recovering. I'll be hooked up on golf balls. So.
Golf balls, everybody. Golf balls.
I imagine, unless I know I'm not going to be able to sit up, but we'll have next week. We'll have the at least part 1 of Free Comic Book Day runabout. I do have to regret the error because my, what did I drop $3,000 on my cop car and the AC gave out, and oh well.
Thank goodness it was just in the 70s, because if it would have been in the 80s or 90s,
that
would have been ugly. Would have been ugly.
Because we would drop the windows and try to get some air coming in, which helped. And then of course we would roll it because on the freeways otherwise you'd hear kind of like if you go back, and I can't remember when we took a trip with Butch down.
Yes, last year.
We went through. It was called Derecho, Derecho, which was a long-lived windstorm that, had we known we were going through, I probably would have pulled off the road and aimed my car towards it, because we were driving and you can hear the wind slap the car. The fact that we drove through that and it was dangerous as it was. Hey, tornadoes coming? Cory and I don't fear them. We don't fear them, right, Cory? We're trying to be macho about this.
We didn't know how dangerous it was.
No, we didn't. Anyways, enough.
We were more stupid than brave. And I think for a lot of people, most of the things they do that are brave are just stupid.
I just was ignorant. We had no idea. We didn't have our phones on. We didn't get warnings it was coming. Because even as we were doing this podcast, my phone chirped and I could hear the weather radio going off that they changed our thunderstorm watch to tornado warning. So, oh well, I'm in the basement. I'm safe. That's pretty much it for me freaking, Cory. What are you freaking on?
Boy, the prices on these hardcovers and trade paperbacks are shooting up like crazy. I'm so old, I remember when a Marvel Epic book was $29.99. They're now $44.99. The DC...
Which is why, you remember I said I was going to start picking up my Epic line?
Yeah.
Nope. I mean, I might pick them up, but...
I pick them up when they're on discount, because there are places that blow them out.
And again, once I'm this close to reactivating my Marvel Unlimited and getting a decent thing to watch it on.
And then with the DC Omnibus, the House of Mystery is it's not a small omnibus, but DC's been cranking out these 15 and 1600 page omnibuses. That one's barely 950 pages and it's $150. And looking at the prices for the Marvel omnibuses, rumors are that they will be going up too. Let me take a look. I didn't look and see. And a lot of it is the books that they have to scan and digitize and everything. I understand why that could be more expensive. I really do. But the modern stuff like Gwenpool, they should be able to just, they've already got the file, just send the file. Let's see, Gwenpool is 1,100 pages for $125. Wolverine's 1,200 pages for $125. So those are reasonable based on what they've been in the past. But the rumor is that they're going to start going up by the end of the year because paper shortage, shipping delays, on and on and on. Yes, I know that we're in inflation and everything, but I remember when inflation was, well, I'm sorry, this comic's going to go from 25 cents to 30 cents. Not, oh, sorry, this book that would have been $99.95 is now going to be $150. What are these textbooks? The next thing I am freaking on, I talked a lot about it in my coverage on AEW. And if you're not a wrestling fan, you may not get this. But last night, they started the Owen Hart tournament on All Elite Wrestling. Owen Hart, brother of Bret Hart, was a wrestler who died due to a stunt gone wrong in 1999, May of 1999, where he was to be lowered to the ring from the rafters, and the harness he was in released early. He fell to the ring and died. He was not someone who did a lot of the crazy stuff. He didn't do the hardcore wrestling. He and his brother Bret are both mat-based workers. And Bret is very, very vocal about how wrestling should be, you put on the match, it looks like you fought, and when it's done, you're able to go out and get a beer afterward. Well, last night they had the first matches in the Owen Hart tournament. The first one was a fantastic wrestling match between Dax Harwood and Adam Cole, where Dax wrestled a lot like Bret Hart, and Adam Cole wrestled a lot like Shawn Michaels. And a lot of the matches that people are doing are tributes to Bret and Owen Hart. But the second match that was the main event was Darby Allin versus Jeff Hardy in an anything goes match. And there was not a wrist lock. There was not a collar and elbow tie up. There was not a headlock. It was all stunts. People being thrown into things, people leaping off things. But the thing that made me the maddest, they brought out a 12-foot ladder and put it in the ring. They set up a whole bunch of chairs on the floor, and Darby Allin did a swanton, which is basically a front flip off this 12-foot ladder into Jeff Hardy and all the chairs. And it looked like, if he would have been off just a little bit, either way, he would have been crippled. And I was so mad because you should not be doing a stunt show with that much danger in a tribute to Owen Hart, who died because of a stupid stunt. If you're doing a tribute to Owen Hart, you should wrestle like him. Yes, I know that Darby Allin isn't really that good a wrestler. He's more of a, I leap off things. I know that Jeff Hardy can wrestle, but he doesn't like to. Then don't put them in that tournament. Let them do their match. I'd rather they did it on a pay-per-view rather than on a TV show because, hey, if you're doing stuff like that on the regular TV, how are you going to blow us away on a pay-per-view? But that's beside the point. I felt it was a very poor thing to do when they're doing a tribute to Owen Hart. And the thing is, I put that editorial in my coverage, and from what I hear, the guys at PW Insider got a lot of people who said the same thing. They got a lot of email from people saying that it was too dangerous, it was too crazy, it was not a good tribute to Owen Hart. And to be honest, I don't think that they went out of their way to go, let's poke Owen's memory in the eye. It was more, let's have a really great show and our main event will blow the roof off. But you got to read the room. You got to think about what you're doing. You got to be professional. And it's a problem we have with a lot of people in the public sphere where they don't think beyond, well, what will this do in the next 30 seconds? They don't think, well, what led to this? What will come from this? It's more, well, what'll get a pop right now? And I think if you're a wrestling company that's trying to pay tribute to the icons and the heroes of the past, you need to think a little deeper than how can we get the crowd to pop. Joe, what are you geeking on?
Just a quick sneak of Free Comic Book Day, but it was a lot of fun. We got together early. We hit Granite City quick, and then we worked our way south. Good conversation with good friends, geeking. I probably went crazy because I looked at my balance. I go, whoa. But yeah, I did some damage, but I had a lot of fun doing it, and I'm looking forward to reading some of the stuff and then blowing it out on the eBays. Some of the stuff I picked up. Afterwards, we saw Doctor Strange. It's been almost a week since we see it. We talk a bit about it afterwards, and we were pretty much figured by the time this thing dropped, it would be late. So while we talk now, spoiler free, then we won't. So just be warned. Looking back, I'm like, it was a good movie. I found when I went and looked at the Easter egg things, there was so much more I missed, including Sam Raimi's, what was it, Oldsmobile? What year was that? Yeah, I totally blanked on that, and it was right there on the screen. But it's in every movie he does, so you got to look for it. I don't really want to talk too much more about it because, again, I'm trying to keep it spoiler free. But my opinion is, if you're a Marvel geek, comic geek, and you must be if you're listening to us blather on, yeah, you want to see this one. A non-geek probably could go past it because I've seen it's funny. The reviews seem to be guys I know that are into comics. Oh yeah, it was great. It was fun. It was good. And non-geeky people are like, I don't know what the hell I just watched. I don't get it. If you haven't seen it by the time this drops, go see WandaVision first. Catch Loki, Spider-Man, and What If. So you got homework to do. If you followed your homework and you're caught up, you'll get more out of it. And there was one freaking moment where, the dialogue went from to really quiet. And I looked at Cory, what did they say? And Cory didn't catch it. And you found out what it was later and posted it for us. So just be ready for that. I don't like it when movies do that. If you're not quite sure, you can always go to my buddy, Jeff, and check out Cinema Judge podcast because he did Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. He has interviews with, let me just click on it. He has interviews with Benedict Cumberbatch, Elizabeth Olsen, Benedict Wong, and almost everybody else involved with it. So, as usual, Jeff is the judge. He wants you to be the jury. So listen to his podcast, 54 minutes long, and then you decide it's spoiler free, so you don't have to worry about, listening to it. And it's great if you're kind of on the fence about it, but go see it. You're a comic geek, you know you want some. Speaking of, I'm going to go through some books I read, but I'm also going to stop because one of I don't know if he's a listener, but he was an old time customer of mine, Jamie, up in Ely. I'm so jealous he lives up there. He just finished reading a book called Vinyl. and I don't have, it's Image. And he's at vinyl number 6. He says, I just finished reading this, and all I can say, it was fucking brilliant. Never in my life did I ever think I would cheer for a group of serial killers, but I'll be damned if I didn't with this series. It even had a happy ending, which I didn't think would happen. I highly recommend this series to everyone. And I took a screenshot of it, and I'm going to, well, he's at issue 6, so if I can't find all 6 issues, I imagine the graphic novel's out. It might even be out this month. I'll have to go look for it. That's the type I did ask Jamie if I could use it. Folks, you got something you review and you really like it, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Travis has called us in the past and said, hey, check this out. So we're always game for that, because the more you do, the less we have to. I mean, never mind. Speaking of reading, I did finally get myself a copy of Fantastic Four Volume 2, the Hickman run. And I just have to say, Cory, you had mentioned the Hickman run actually is in Fantastic Four is part of a much longer run that started, and I forget the title of the book it started, ended with Civil War.
Yep.
What's the sequence to read?
All right, you start with his run in the Ultimate Universe, then Secret Warriors, Fantastic Four, Avengers, Secret War.
Okay, because this is I mean, Hickman's brilliant. I mean, I was digging through. I mentioned a guy had a kind of a comics for sale in a garage sale, and I ran across I think it's called The Newsroom.
Yeah,
Hickman did. I just picked it up. It's Hickman, and it was a great price too. So what I absolutely loved, it occurred to me, and it's something, Cory, you have said thousands of times, maybe tens on one of the things when you're writing comics, especially if you're in somebody else's sandbox, you can play with the toys all you want, but you have to put them back when you're done. And it really occurred to me, because things would happen in Hickman's run. I'm like, I don't remember what the hell happened. Well, by the time you finish, and I did it through 2 volumes of omnibuses, you get to the end, Hickman puts all the toys back in the toolbox, in the sandbox, for the next person to play with. So just a brilliant. I mean, Hickman, I'm giving you the same accolades I give some of the other guys. You write the bloody phone book, and I'm going to pick it up, especially if I'm in it. So yeah, I can't gush enough about this. And again, I had volume 1, did not realize it didn't have volume 2. I just picked it up at online. Some of the things I did read, I read Flashpoint Beyond, loved it. And there are some scenes in there where, I mean, let's see, was it Flash Beyond? Or, oh yeah, there's a scene where I was just showing this to a friend of mine who's really into the metal universe, and he knows about Flashpoint. I just showed him the sequence, and it's basically, well, I don't want to spoil it, but he looked at it and he goes, oh, whoa, and I was walking away. Wait, was that Thomas Wayne? And dude, you got some geek credit, because he said, yeah, I don't see the regular Batman Bruce doing that. 6 issues. I read the 0. I read the 1. I'm really excited. I'm really loving this. I'm geeking for a crossover, so I got the Free Comic Book Day Dark Crisis. I won't review this because I know eventually we're going to talk about some of the stuff that we liked at Free Comic Book Day, but I could not wait for this one because I want to see where they're going with this. And it's obviously a good 0 issue. You should have been able to pick it up free, and it just looks exciting. Of course, before you read that, and it's not a spoiler because it's on the freaking cover, I've got a minor freaking here because I got the acetate Justice League number 75, Death of the Justice League, and it's solid black, so every time I accidentally touch it wrong, it gets a fucking fingerprint on it. So I just gotta wipe it off. But read that first. I enjoyed it. I knew it was coming. I had to laugh because I remember Cory telling Cory, I'm going to stop Justice League. I said, well, it's over at 75. Oh, okay. And you want to read that, then read Dark Crisis Free Comic Book Day Special. I also jumped into another Free Comic Book Day Special because I cannot wait. Judgment Day, Avengers, X-Men, Eternals. I don't know if this is if it's like I guess it is a prologue. So I don't know if this will probably be included in the inevitable graphic novel. So that's probably original, but it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Avengers, X-Men, Eternals. I'm loving the Eternals, so this is going to be a blast. They also have a teaser for a Blade series coming up. They go into the Hellfire Gala, and let's see what else we got here. Yeah, so just a lot of fun going on there. The other one I had to read right away, Amazing Spider-Man #1. I have no idea what Peter did. I am very intrigued to find out what he did, because we knew it was coming. Everybody's pissed at him, even Aunt May. It takes a lot to get Aunt May pissed at you. Doesn't say she doesn't love him, but and of course you see the ending before you see the beginning. I am on board with this. I'm so excited to see your Spider-Man. That's pretty much it. Again, thumbs up to the Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I watched it before this podcast. Episode 2 dropped, and I'm loving it. So a lot of fun here, and like I said, I can't wait till I'm finally recovered and I can sit up, because I got oodles of stuff to read. Oodles, tremendous things, and I'm finally cracking up. I finally got over my fear of bringing my omnibuses to work, because I'm always worried I'm going to get there and somehow they're going to get all banged up, but they're not. So I'm having fun with that as well. How about you, Cory? What you geeking on?
I also really enjoyed Free Comic Book Day. It was fun to hang out with everybody. And I want to kind of do a public service announcement.
We don't have to, by the way. We just like to do it.
Well, what it is, I planned out, hey, I'm going to get up, I'm going to do this, going to do that, I'm ready to go. Now, there is a story beforehand, because I had Friday night off. Rare I get a Friday night off. And AEW Rampage, a show I normally cover, I did not have to cover, because my partner tapped out last Wednesday. Said, I got something going on. I can't cover Dynamite. And I, of course, teased him saying, yeah, you just don't want to cover the 10-man tag. And he said, oh, fine, I'll cover Rampage for you. And I was like, great, because Rampage started early. It started at 4:30. I was still at the office job. And I had a bunch of stuff to do because I didn't have my Saturday to run errands. So as soon as work was done, I ran my errands. I get back, and it's like, oh, I'll check and see if I want to watch Rampage tonight, or if it's, something I can watch on Sunday. So I looked on PW Insider, nothing. And this was about 7:30. And I go over to my Facebook, and I showed that my partner in crime, Anthony Pyrus, hey, I'm at the Doctor Strange movie. So I email Mike Johnson to say, hey, did Anthony send in his coverage before he went to the movies? And Mike said back, got nothing. So I fired up the laptop, did my coverage and everything. Still got to bed early enough that I was able to wake up, get a shower. You're all very glad I got a shower. Ran a few errands in the morning, got over to Joe's place a little before 10, and we spent the whole day geeking out. And Sunday, I was utterly exhausted because that was the most social stuff I had done in a long time. That is one of the side effects of my generalized anxiety disorder. It's not that I don't love hanging out with you guys. It's not that I didn't have a blast. It's that it took so much out of me that Sunday I just never got going. My head was fuzzy. I was up for I didn't get home till 2 a.m. because of goddamn road construction. But then I woke up around 9:30 and had breakfast and watched some TV, and my head was so fuzzy. It's like, okay, I'm going to lay down and sleep some more. I woke up about 2 hours later. My head was still kind of fuzzy, but I was awake, and I was just kind of out of it the whole day. And for part of it, I was like, why am I so exhausted? And it wasn't until around 3 or 4 in the afternoon when I went, oh, yeah, I was around people being social all day. Just completely exhausted me. But do not think that that means I didn't have fun and I didn't enjoy it. Those are two different things. Comic geeking wise, we talked about the places we went. I always loved going to St. Cloud for what is the name of the bookstore again?
I'd have to Google it. I don't remember. Go ahead, talk. I'll Google it quick.
But they have used books. Now, the used bookstores here around the Twin Cities, other than Dreamhaven, if it's more than 5 years old, they don't care. You're going to get all the bestsellers from the past 5-10 years. You'll get the remaindered books. But if you want something from the 90s, let alone the 80s, 70s, or 60s, you're not going to get it.
Revisited.
Books revisited, that's right.
Yeah.
But when I go...
I've actually got a mini freaking I wasn't going to talk about, but as long as you mentioned that, there was a new book that's out, and I'm trying to find it here. It's called Barons, The Barons, by Kurt Johnson and Ellie Johnson. I found this through the Jason show, the local show that I like to go to, and I figured, you know what? I like local artists. Like local creators, writers, and what it is Ellie actually went through what they called the Barons. Her and her friend went on a canoe trip. The Barons are northern Alaska, Canada area where there's nobody around the Arctic Circle and that. Just amazing. I would love to do a journey like that. I'm no longer physically capable of doing it. Anyways, the story of the book is that she is out. It's not her, the characters. She's out with her friend. She loves her friend. She thinks she wants to tell her friend she's in love with her. Her friend dies in the middle of the Barrens, and now she has to bring the body home through the Barrens alone. And I'm like, wow. So I figure, okay, my go-to choice is Barnes and Noble. They don't have it. They're out of stock. They're not carrying it. Well, I think that's probably the last time I'm ever going to Barnes and Noble, other than to look at their discount books. I still want to buy this through a local bookstore, but damn, you're all forcing me to go to Amazon, and I don't really want to do that. I mean, they're going to get enough of my money. Anyways, geeking was I got to go see the Jason Show live, and that got me pumped up for the week, and I'm still pumped up. So I'll return this back to your friendly neighborhood geeking.
So when I go to Books Revisited, I'm looking for old books. And I found some John D. McDonald stuff from the 50s and early 60s. I found some Ace Doubles. I found, my happy place with reading right now. I just scrambled over to find my books because, again, I bought some books there as well. I got Star Wars, Aftermath, Empire's End. Those are by Chuck Wendig. I've never read these, but my buddy Eric says go for it. I picked up The Fireman, a novel from Joe Hill, and then I found a Harlan Ellison book, Alice in Wonderland, 16 Excursion into the Fantastic Universe. So, yeah, this is a blast of a bookstore because you never know what you're going to find. But I was able to load up on some 50s and 60s crime novels, which is my sweet spot right now. Comic-wise, I haven't read a whole lot physically, but I have been reading digitally. I'm still reading The Punisher, but today, Marvel Unlimited released a Patsy Walker book written by Trina Robbins. And they're going to be dropping a new digital issue every Thursday for the next 4 weeks. Trina Robbins, it came from the underground, but also is an excellent comic historian, probably our best historian when it comes to female creators in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and even into the 60s when people didn't have their names signed on books. And the Patsy Walker story is set in the 50s. The first issue is a lot of fun. A lot of fun, drawn in that 50s humor / romance comic style. The Punisher stuff I'm reading, it's funny how I'm reading it again. I read it when it came out, and that's mumbly 20 years ago. And he plays with the politics of war that was going on at the time. It still feels fresh and relevant. It's brutal. One of the things I like when Garth Ennis does serious action stuff is that he's very serious. Things have consequences. Characters are, nobody is good. It's a very dark view of the world, but for the stories he's telling, they work. Completely work. And Joe is watching Strange New Worlds. I only have 2 episodes left of this season of Star Trek Discovery. This was a crazy week. I did not have time to watch TV at all, it seems like. So I'm getting caught up. I do have Saturday completely, totally, and utterly off. I will turn off my phone. I will turn off my computer, and I will just relax. And let's hope we don't have another series of storms go through on Saturday. Believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for 2 hours.
Yeah. Good job.
And as we run to the shelter, we say every week the comic that we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
Well, we actually have about 2 hours and 15 minutes before it hits us. So that's all I got to say. Let's sit back and listen to some thunder. Oh, boy, here it goes.
Yeah, Alexa just told me there's a severe thunderstorm warning. So there we go.
I was just looking at the radar, so if it's coming.
It's coming.
Let's see.
Joe, it's coming. We got to go.
There's like a big line going from St. Cloud down to Mankato.
We got to go. Goodbye.